let's do the best top 10 award flippers in the game. Now, flipping an award to me is the most like swingy Terraforming Mars gets. It's really not a very swingy game. Like most of the points are scored by the last few moves, unlike other heroes like maybe Terra Mystic. I've seen some crazy last turn point swings. But yeah, in Terraforming Mars, yeah, the last gen is where you score more points. It's the generation where you score more points. But like it's not a still very not a swingy game, and the one swingy factor, the swingiest it gets is awards, and they're actually pretty hard to flip. But if you flip them, it's 10 points, and 10 points can be the game. So I wanted to look at the best cards in Terraforming Mars for flipping awards. And yeah, they're gonna revolve around some of the same awards because some just aren't flippable. But anyway, let's get started. And the first one is energy saving. So obviously this is to flip industrialist, and industrialist main component is usually steel. But energy saving is a card that in the last generation can easily get you, 6 energy. There's like 6 cities is easy. 10 cities with more players is possible. So yeah, and people don't really expect it. It's not a card that is often played. If people see it in the draft, they'll forget it. And if you keep it around before the award is claimed, then this could easily swing industrialist. At number 9, we have our first eccentric flipper, Hydrogen to Venus. And now, okay, Hydrogen to Venus is pretty low in as far as eccentric flippers go, because you need Jovians and a floater, so somewhere to put floaters. And Jovians there usually aren't that many. Now I do often play Hydrogen to Venus just for points, because it's a pretty good point card, right? But it's a bit expensive. I mean, it terraforms Venus, so yeah, it's a bit expensive, but still you can get like 7 or 8 floaters at best usually. And so that's often enough to flip eccentric, but not the best card. A lot of people are aware of it and usually claim eccentric with a bigger margin. At number 8, we have the first banker flipper, and that's insulation. Now, insulation is the cheapest, and that's why it's so good. Of course, the main problem it has is that it requires heat production, and so it's not for everyone. And the other thing with banker is that banker usually one flipper is not gonna do it. Usually gonna need 2 or 3 cards, because people don't claim banker with like 5 of being 5 ahead or even 10 ahead. People claim banker when they're 20 ahead and late, or maybe not so late, but they also have like flipping cards for banker that they can just respond to your flipper, right? So insulation, it's the cheapest. It's like basically cost free, because it costs 2, and you don't mind giving up the heat after the last generation, because after the last production round the heat's not going to do anything unless thermalist is claimed, which coincidentally it's on the same map, so it's possible. But otherwise, yeah, insulation. Now at number 7, we have mineral deposit, and this is the only card in this rank that actually flips 2 awards, and for the same reason. So it flips industrialist and miner, and it both awards, just part of them is the total steal. This is the most steal you can get in a single card. It's cheap, it's easy to discount because it's an event, and it's easy to hold on to throughout the game. So yeah, mineral deposit helps you with 2 awards. Like both of these awards are usually claimed within that range. I'd say 5 or more, so you're right on the edge of flipping it with it. And yeah, the fact that it's 2, I think, is why this ranks a little higher. But then at number 6, our other Bangkok flipper, and okay, Zeppelins. And yeah, Zeppelins is probably my favorite banker flipper. Now, it's not as cheap as Insulation, but it is way more consistent in that there's always cities, right? Well, almost always. And if it's, 3 4 players, then almost guaranteed that there's a bunch, like 6 or 7. Again, it's banker. This is as high as the banker ones get, because you are not gonna find people claiming banker again for 5 with an advantage of 5 or 6. And so you probably need Zeppelins and something else, but because this one's always guaranteed to give you at least like maybe 6 or 7 production, I think it's the best one for banker. Now there are some situational ones that can be better, like Medical Lab, Robotic Workforce, Gyropolis, all the multipliers, Cartel, etc. But those are all situational, right? So I think Zeppelins is the least situational because it just counts all cities, and yeah, I think it's the best one for banker. At 5, an underrated one that I really like, Artificial Lake, and this is obviously to flip State Dealer. The thing about State Dealer, no, this is in the Elysium map, is that it first of all, if people claim it early, like the game goes bonkers. Like it just changes the way everyone plays this, because it's like free to take. But if it's claimed late, usually people calculate, okay, there's maybe 2 oceans left, and at best, if they place tiles, here, here, and here, then yeah, I still win the award. And what no one takes into account is Artificial Lake, which if you just place next to 3 of your tiles, next to 3 of your greenery somewhere, then you get 3 adjacencies that they didn't expect, and they just mess up everyone's calculation. So yeah, an award that actually flips really easy when claimed early, but really hard when claimed late, because when most of the adjacencies to oceans are taken, then there's not much to do. Artificial Lake can really surprise people. At number 4, and that's for Benefactor Terraforming Ganymede. Now, what I love about this one is usually if you go Jovian, you are not the best terraformer or the biggest terraformer in the game. So it's often gonna be it's often gonna be possible that someone else claims Benefactor and then you flip it with Terraforming Ganymede. Now, nothing else will get you 6 or 7 terraforming steps in a single card, and that can be enough. So now we're getting into the pretty much the cards that people just claim the award and hope that you don't have them. For the other ones, like, it's reasonable to get outside the save range. Like, for example, for Mineral Deposit, you easily can claim Miner with more than 5. But what we're gonna see for 3-2-1 is that it's basically just hope, because it's rare to be outside that range, and you just claim the award anyway because it's only 1 card that does it, or 2, and yeah. So for 3, Saturn Surfing, a card that I've been very honest about how much I hate, but it does have this utility to flip eccentric. Earth techs are pretty common, and yeah, it just gives you a bunch of floaters. You don't have to use the ability to remove. It only gives you 5 back. It might give you some points with Jovians, but it's just that it can easily place 5 to 10 floaters at the end, which is usually more than enough to flip eccentric. And again, a Jovian player, if you're playing with colonies, probably has floaters. If not, probably doesn't. So people are gonna think they're not even in contention for eccentric, and then swoops in and takes it all. That's not as good as number 2, though. That's Bactoviral Research. And again, with Bactoviral Research, the nice thing is that the science player is not necessarily, they might have gone for science and income, they're not necessarily playing microbes. Now, you do need a microbe card to receive the microbes from here, but with just one you have it, and it's like you can just pick up a bad one. You can pick up tardigrades. No, you're not gonna get any points, or place 1 or 2 there in the last 2 generations, and then just play Bactoviral Research on it, And science tags can get high. Science tags can also be like 9 or 10. It's one of the most common tags in the game. I think it's the third most common after steel and space. So yeah, these can get you a lot of microbes, and to a player that most people may have thought was not in contention for them. And finally, number one, the best award flipper in the game is Impactor Swarm, and this just gives you 12 heat. Now, a lot of people just look at this and see, an asteroid and a half. But this is just meant to flip Thermalist. And Thermalist is rarely claimed with more than that. If you play the game right, you should not be, 20 heat ahead. That means you terraform too fast the heat and didn't terraform the plants fast enough. So you should never be like that far ahead in heat. And so Impactor Swarm is usually enough to do it. It does have a requirement. I think that's easy enough to meet if you plan carefully. And it will almost assuredly flip Thermalist entirely. And so that to me is the best award flipping card in the game. Anyway, that's it for my video today. Hope you like it. Let me know what you think, and see you next time.